Have you ever wondered what would happen if just for a moment you stopped asking, "How can I make everyone else happy?" and asked yourself, "What do I need right now to feel whole?" What if the deepest pain you feel isn't about being unappreciated or misunderstood, but about betraying your own soul in the hope that someone else will finally see you, love you, or simply let you belong? Have you ever lost yourself trying to keep the peace in rooms full of thunder? Have you ever silenced your own needs only to find the ache in your chest growing louder and more persistent with each yes you never meant to say? Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But for the empath, the one who feels everything so deeply, who walks through life absorbing every unspoken emotion, becoming who you are can feel like a risk, even a betrayal of others. How could you possibly choose yourself when you were taught, in 1,000 subtle ways, that your worth was measured by how little you asked for and how much you gave away? If you recognize yourself in these questions, you are not alone. The world is full of gentle souls who carry the emotional burdens of others as if they were their own, who fear that a single ripple of conflict might shatter the fragile peace they've worked so hard to keep. You may have learned early, maybe in childhood, maybe later, that harmony is survival, that silence is safer than honesty, and that your pain must be hidden so that others can be comfortable. But what happens when you stop? What happens when the empath, so accustomed to shrinking, finally chooses to expand, when you stop molding yourself to fit the expectations of others and begin the quiet, trembling journey back to your own truth? If you're willing, share in the comments. Have you ever felt lost beneath the weight of pleasing others? Your story, your honesty, could be the hand someone else needs to hold. For the empath, every day is an invisible negotiation. You feel the shifts in the room before a word is spoken. You know when someone is angry, even if they never say it. You sense disappointment, longing, fear, joy, sometimes all at once, swirling through the air like a current only you can feel. You've learned to read between the lines, to listen for what's not being said, to offer comfort before the tears arrive. And somewhere along the way, perhaps you learned to turn that sensitivity against yourself. You became the caretaker, the peacemaker, the one who anticipates needs and absorbs wounds. You became so good at reading others that you forgot how to read yourself. Your own feelings became a faint echo, drowned out by the volume of everyone else's needs. Jung described this as the danger of living through the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted by the world. The empath's persona is often shaped by an early unspoken contract. If I am sensitive enough, helpful enough, gentle enough, I will be safe. I will be loved. But beneath that mask lies a self that is raw, real, and desperately longing to be seen. Maybe you remember a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when you first learned to hide your feelings. A parent's disapproval, a teacher's harsh words, a friend's rejection. The lesson was clear. Your feelings are too much, so you pushed them down, buried them deep. You became the good child, the loyal friend, the partner who never complains. Yet inside, something sacred refused to die. Jung called this the shadow, the hidden, unloved parts of ourselves that we try to forget. For the empath, the shadow might look like anger, resentment, even envy. But instead of expressing these feelings, you swallowed them. You smiled through the pain, convinced that love means self-sacrifice. But the shadow does not disappear just because we ignore it. Instead, it waits. It grows in the quiet, feeding on the moments when you say yes to others and no to yourself. It leaks out in anxiety, exhaustion, quiet tears behind closed doors. It whispers to you in your dreams, "This is not all you are. There is more." In Jungian psychology, healing does not come from denying the shadow, but from embracing it. The journey back to yourself begins when you are brave enough to ask, "What am I really feeling?" And to let the answer be whatever it is: messy, inconvenient, true. For many empaths, this is a terrifying question. What if you discover anger, grief, or longing? What if you can no longer ignore your needs, your dreams, your own voice? But the truth is, the world does not need another perfectly agreeable person. It needs you, whole, honest, awake. As you listen now, maybe you can sense the places in your life where you've gone silent, the moments when you betrayed your own heart to keep someone else comfortable, the friendships where you gave and gave until there was nothing left, the relationships where you became smaller and quieter, hoping to be loved for your kindness. And maybe, just maybe, you are ready for something different. Maybe you are ready to stop abandoning yourself. Jung believed that the journey to individuation, the process of becoming your true self, requires that we meet our shadow, not as an enemy, but as a lost friend. The shadow is not evil. It is simply the parts of you that learn to hide, to protect, to survive. When you face your shadow, you become whole. Imagine for a moment what your life might look like if you began to honor your own feelings as much as you honor everyone else's. What if you could sit with your discomfort, your fear of disapproval, and let it be there, without running, without pleasing, without disappearing? What if your real gift is not your ability to absorb pain, but your willingness to heal it, starting with your own? The empath's path is not to stop caring, but to care deeply enough to include yourself. To understand that saying no is not a betrayal, but an act of honesty. That honoring your own boundaries does not make you less loving. It makes your love more real, more alive, more sustainable. So here is the invitation. Tonight, when the world grows quiet, listen to your own heart. Ask yourself gently, what am I longing for? What have I hidden, even from myself? And trust that whatever you find, it is worthy of your attention. This is not the end of your empathy. It is the beginning of your truth. You may notice that the moment you stop pleasing everyone, something inside you shifts. At first, there is fear, a tightening in your chest, an old, familiar panic. It is the same fear you felt as a child when your truth was met with silence, or worse, with rejection. The world around you does not understand this sudden change. Those who once leaned on your gentleness may grow uneasy. Their expectations press in on you, trying to mold you back into your old shape. But you have already begun to remember something essential. Your life is not meant to be a constant negotiation between your needs and everyone else's comfort. When the empath stops pleasing, a strange quiet descends. In this stillness, you begin to see how much of your life has been built around the unspoken needs of others. You notice how quickly you bend, how instinctively you reach for harmony, even when it costs you your peace. There is grief in this realization, the sorrow of seeing how many times you have abandoned yourself, not out of malice, but from a longing to belong. It is here in this silent reckoning that the true work of healing begins. Jung wrote that every one of us has a shadow, a collection of the feelings, memories, and desires we banish from sight to maintain our image as good, acceptable, lovable. The empath's shadow is often filled with the things you are most ashamed of: anger, resentment, disappointment. These are not flaws, but natural responses to a life of self-betrayal. For years, you may have mistaken compassion for compliance, believing that love means never letting anyone down, even if it means letting yourself down, over and over again. But when you stop pleasing, you give yourself permission to witness your own suffering, not as weakness, but as wisdom. You see that your exhaustion is not a personal failure, but the inevitable result of carrying burdens that were never yours to hold. You realize that your anxiety is not a defect, but a signal, a quiet rebellion from the self you have hidden away. This is the moment the journey inward truly begins. The persona, the mask you have worn for safety, starts to slip. You notice how heavy it has become, how much energy it takes to smile when you want to cry, to soothe when you need to be soothed, to forgive before you have had the chance to feel anger. At first there may be guilt. The habit of self-sacrifice runs deep, and the world often praises it. But Jung reminds us that real wholeness requires the courage to disappoint others in order to be true to yourself. As you move further into this territory, you may find your inner child waiting for you. The part of you that learned, long ago, that love is conditional, that safety depends on staying quiet, keeping the peace, sensing danger before it arrives. This child within is tender, sensitive, and wise. It remembers every slight, every unspoken rule, every time your needs were too much for someone else to handle. For years you have tried to protect this child by becoming invisible, by absorbing the pain of others so you would not have to feel your own. Now, you begin to realize that healing is not found in making yourself smaller, but in holding space for your own feelings. You allow your sadness to surface, your anger to speak, your longing to be acknowledged. Each emotion, even the difficult ones, is a message from the self you have neglected. Each is a clue on the path back to your own heart. You may notice, too, that as you honor your feelings, the world begins to look different. Relationships shift. Some people may pull away, unable or unwilling to meet you in your new honesty. Others may be drawn closer, relieved to see the real you emerging. It is a time of uncertainty, but also of possibility. For the first time, you are not merely reacting to the world. You are choosing, moment by moment, what is true for you. Jung called this the process of individuation, the journey of becoming the person you were meant to be, not the person the world expected you to become. Individuation is not a destination, but a continual unfolding, a daily act of courage. It requires you to confront not only your pain, but also your potential, not only your wounds, but also your gifts. In this process, you may begin to recognize patterns that repeat, cycles of overgiving, of seeking approval, of shrinking when you long to expand. You notice how often you have abandoned your intuition, your desires, your dreams, for fear of standing out or standing alone. The collective unconscious, the reservoir of inherited patterns, archetypes, and beliefs, tugs at you, whispering old stories. You must earn love. You must never be too much. You must not need. But you are learning that these stories, though powerful, are not the whole truth. They are echoes of a world that has not yet learned how to love the sensitive, the intuitive, the empathic. Your gift is not your ability to disappear, but your willingness to be present even when it is uncomfortable. Your healing begins when you decide, gently but firmly, to be on your own side. As you move through this unfamiliar terrain, you may experience moments of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that seem to guide you, reassure you, remind you that you are not alone. You meet people who speak to your soul, who understand your struggle, who encourage your growth. Books, songs, dreams arrive at just the right moment, nudging you onward. These moments are not accidents, but invitations from the deeper currents of your own psyche, reminding you that your journey matters. Slowly, you begin to feel a new kind of strength, a quiet power that comes from knowing and honoring yourself. You discover that you can survive disappointment, that you can sit with discomfort, that you can say no, and the world does not end. You see that true connection is not built on self-abandonment, but on authenticity. With each step, you gather the pieces of yourself that you left behind, the child who wanted to be seen, the adolescent who dared to dream, the adult who longs for meaning. You realize that your sensitivity is not a curse, but a compass, an inner guide leading you toward wholeness. The path is not easy, and there will be moments of doubt. You will miss the comfort of old patterns, the safety of pleasing. But as you continue, you will find something far more precious, the truth of who you are beneath all the roles you have played. And as you claim this truth, you offer a silent permission to others, their own journey toward authenticity. You become a light in the darkness, not because you have all the answers, but because you are brave enough to ask the real questions. And as you keep gathering the scattered pieces of your true self, you might find that life slowly starts to answer you back. There is a subtle but profound shift in the air around you. Colors seem a bit brighter. Your breath moves a little more freely in your chest, and for the first time in a long while, you feel the ground beneath your feet is yours. This is not the dramatic rebirth you may have dreamed of, nor a clean break from all the old patterns. It's a quiet, steady remembering. It's the realization that you can finally be the one who welcomes yourself home. You might notice that your dreams begin to change. No longer do you find yourself lost in endless labyrinths or running from nameless dangers. Instead, new images emerge. A locked door, gently opening, a familiar room filled with light, a child laughing without fear. Jung believed that our dreams are the messages of the unconscious, an ancient hidden language that speaks in symbols, not sentences. As you reclaim your voice, your unconscious responds, weaving a story of reunion and healing through your nights. Some mornings you may awaken with a memory from childhood, a forgotten longing, a small act of defiance, a time when you dared to be honest and were met with love, or just as often, with resistance. These memories are not random. They are invitations to reconnect with the core of who you are, the part that never truly left, even when the world taught you to hide. Each recollection is an opportunity to look with kinder eyes upon your own story, to gather your past not as a burden, but as a source of wisdom. As you continue living from this new awareness, the outside world will test your resolve. There will be moments when old habits pull at you, moments when the urge to appease, to mediate, to dissolve your boundaries in the name of peace feels almost irresistible. Sometimes you'll find yourself halfway through an old pattern before you even realize you're there. In those moments, remember, this journey is not about perfection. Jung taught that individuation is a spiral, not a straight line. Each return to the old is a chance to practice something new, to forgive yourself, and to begin again with a little more clarity, a little more courage. You might discover, too, that your relationships undergo a subtle alchemy. Some bonds may dissolve or fade quietly away. Others deepen, gaining a new honesty that sometimes stings, but ultimately heals. When you stop playing the role you've always played, those around you must also meet you anew. It may be uncomfortable at first. Many people unconsciously rely on the empath to be their emotional anchor, their constant comfort. Yet, as you become more whole, you invite others to step into their own fullness, to feel, to speak, to take responsibility for themselves. The boundaries you once feared would drive people away become bridges, not walls. True intimacy, you discover, is not about merging, but about meeting. Each person responsible for their own inner landscape, each person bringing their whole self to the encounter. Your relationships, once fraught with invisible contracts and unspoken expectations, can now breathe. The shadow, too, shifts in response. Once a lurking threat, it becomes a quiet teacher. You recognize when anger arises, not as a sign that you are bad or broken, but as an honest signal that a boundary has been crossed or a need left unmet. You listen to your sadness, not as proof of your inadequacy, but as a call to tend to your heart. Even your envy, jealousy, and longing are honored as guides pointing you toward what you truly desire, but may have denied yourself. Carl Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This is the heart of your journey. Not to escape your darkness, but to welcome it, to sit with it, to learn from it." Your wholeness does not come from your perfection or your endless giving, but from your willingness to hold all of yourself in tenderness and truth. Sometimes you will feel a surge of grief for all the years spent hiding, all the energy poured into becoming who others needed you to be. Let that grief come. Allow it to wash over you. Beneath it is a wellspring of compassion for yourself and for everyone else who learned to trade authenticity for acceptance. And then, when the storm is past, you might sense a profound peace, a quiet contentment that has nothing to do with being approved of, or being needed, or being right. You are simply here, alive, awake in your own skin. The ground beneath you is solid, not because life is predictable, but because you finally belong to yourself. The old world, the world of constant adaptation, self-abandonment, and silent suffering, no longer holds the same power over you. When you look in the mirror, you see not only the person others have known, but the one you are still becoming. Each day is a new invitation to act with integrity, to speak your truth gently, to care for your own soul as tenderly as you have always cared for others. Now, the collective unconscious, the timeless river of human experience, begins to feel like a source of connection, not constraint. The archetypes that once governed your story in silence, the martyr, the caregiver, the invisible child, can now step aside for something more expansive. You recognize the healer within you, not as one who must save everyone, but as one who brings light into darkness by first learning to love their own shadow. If you listen deeply, you may sense the world itself responding to your transformation. Synchronicities, those mysterious alignments of events and meaning, become more frequent. The right person calls at the right moment. An idea that once eluded you appears effortlessly. You find yourself in the right place, at the right time, without trying so hard to please or control. This is not magic. It is the fruit of a life lived in alignment with your own truth, of energy freed from the exhausting effort of being everything for everyone. Your intuition grows stronger, your creativity flows more freely, and your presence becomes a quiet sanctuary for others who are still searching for their own way home. What then does it mean to be an empath who stops pleasing and starts seeing the truth? It means to live with an open heart and clear eyes, to feel deeply, but to act from a place of self-knowledge and self-respect. It means to risk disappointing others in order to be true to yourself, knowing that real love can only exist where honesty is allowed. It means to welcome your shadow, your pain, your desires, and your dreams as honored guests at the table of your life. If you have followed this path so far, know that your courage is already changing the world, not by force, but by example. Every time you choose yourself, you light a small fire in the dark, showing others that it is possible to be both sensitive and strong, both compassionate and honest, both giving and whole. So tonight, before you sleep, try this gentle practice. Close your eyes, place your hand on your heart, and ask yourself, where have I abandoned myself today? Listen without judgment. Welcome whatever arises. If you feel sadness, sit with it. If you feel relief, let it fill you. Promise yourself quietly to show up tomorrow with just a little more honesty, a little more kindness for yourself. Thank you for walking this path. Thank you for sharing your heart and your story in all its complexity and beauty. If these words have resonated with you, I invite you to share your experience in the comments below. Your truth might be the signpost someone else needs right now. If you'd like to explore more about Carl Jung's transformative wisdom and how it can guide you to greater wholeness, subscribe to this channel and discover our other videos. Until next time, honor your whole self. The world needs you, not the mask, but the real you, shadows and all.